Blake's words cut through me like glass. I think you should move out. I need space, and honestly, this isn't working anymore. I stood there holding grocery bags, the plastic handles digging red marks into my palms. Inside were the ingredients for his favorite dinner, chicken parmesan. I'd spent my last $37 on it. He leaned against the kitchen counter, scrolling through his phone like this was nothing. Like he wasn't destroying my entire world with a few casual sentences. You can stay with friends for now, he said without looking up. I need the apartment to myself. My mind went blank, then rushed backward. 18 months ago, I'd left my job because Blake said the commute stressed me out. 6 months before that, I'd given up my apartment to move in with him. Last spring, I drained my savings to fix his car, money he swore he'd pay back. Where am I supposed to go? My voice came out smaller than I intended, almost childlike. He finally looked up from his phone and shrugged, actually shrugged. I don't know, Maya, figure it out. The grocery bag slipped from my hands. A jar of pasta sauce shattered across the floor, red, spreading like blood. I walked to the bedroom on autopilot, my body moving while my brain tried catching up. Something felt wrong beyond the obvious. Then I realized half my clothes were gone. The closet looked like a mouth with missing teeth. My leather jacket, my vintage boots, my favorite sweaters, all vanished. Blake appeared in the doorway. Oh yeah, my sister came by yesterday. She took some stuff. You left everything lying around, so she figured you didn't want it. My throat tightened. I didn't say she could take my clothes. I told you she was coming over. You said it was fine. His voice was so confident, so sure, making me doubt my own memory. But I knew better. That conversation never happened. I yanked open my dresser drawers, more things missing. My grandmother's silver bracelet, the expensive face cream I'd saved for, even my phone charger. That's when I saw it crumpled in the trash can, a receipt from Henderson's consignment. 23 items sold yesterday, total $285. My hands shook holding that paper. You sold my things. Blake's face stayed blank. Technically, everything here is ours, community property. I pulled out my phone, fingers trembling so badly I could barely type my password. The banking app took forever to load. When the numbers finally appeared, the room tilted. $42.16. I scrolled through transactions, each one a punch to the stomach. Rent, $1,800 last week. Blake had promised to cover it this month. 3 restaurant charges totaling $270 at places we never went together. A hotel in the next city for $395. What are these hotel charges? I held the phone toward him, my voice breaking. Last weekend you said you were visiting your brother. He barely glanced at the screen. You told me I could use the account when money got tight, remember? I never said that. Those words never left my mouth. My eyes caught the most recent transaction. Posted 4 hours ago at Romano's, the expensive Italian restaurant downtown. $163. You used my card today, I whispered, while you were planning to kick me out. His expression didn't change. You're being dramatic, it's just money. Just money, my last money. Money I'd needed for rent somewhere, for food, for surviving. Night fell and I sat in my car in the parking lot, watching other people's windows light up with warm yellow light. Families sitting down to dinner. Couples laughing over wine. Normal people with normal lives who weren't being thrown away like trash. I had nowhere to go. 8% battery left on my phone. No charger because Blake's sister had apparently taken that too. No money for a hotel or even a cheap motel room. Not even enough for fast food. No friends close enough to call anymore. I'd systematically pushed them all away when Blake said they were negative influences who didn't understand our relationship. The cold seeped through the car windows, making my fingers ache. November in the city meant temperatures dropping into the 30s after sunset. I'd need to run the engine periodically for heat, but the gas gauge showed nearly empty. I couldn't even afford to keep myself warm through the night. I stared at my reflection in the rearview mirror. My eyes were red and swollen. My hair was a mess. I looked like a stranger. How had I become this person? How had I let someone reduce me to sleeping in a car with nowhere to turn? The tears came suddenly, violently, tearing out of my chest like something physical breaking. I cried until my ribs ached and my throat burned raw. Cried for the apartment I'd loved with the big windows and morning sun. For the job where people respected my opinions and valued my work. For my savings account that had taken 5 years to build. For the version of myself I'd been before Blake convinced me I needed him to survive, to be complete, to matter. My phone buzzed, making me jump so hard I hit my head on the roof. An unknown number. I almost didn't answer. Who calls from unknown numbers except telemarketers? But something made me press accept. Maya, it's Kate. My sister. We hadn't spoken in 2 years, not since our explosive fight at Thanksgiving when she'd called Blake manipulative, and I'd defended him viciously. How did you know? My voice came out wrecked from crying, barely recognizable. Amanda told me, my former coworker, somehow still keeping track of my life. Do you need somewhere to stay? You can't sleep in your car. The relief hit me so hard I started crying again. Kate's spare room smelled like lavender and old books. She handed me towels and a sweatshirt without asking questions that first night. I was grateful for the silence. Morning came too bright. I found her making coffee in the kitchen, and the air between us felt heavy with everything unsaid for 2 years. Thank you for letting me crash here, I said, standing awkwardly in the doorway. Kate poured 2 mugs and slid one across the counter. You can stay as long as you need. She paused, choosing words carefully. But we need to talk. I know you warned me about Blake. That's not what I mean, she took a breath. Mom wants to see you. The coffee mug felt suddenly heavy in my hands. I hadn't spoken to our mother in 5 years. Not since she'd told me choosing Blake meant choosing to lose family. I can't see her right now. Maya, Blake contacted her 8 months ago. He was asking about your inheritance from Dad. The floor seemed to drop away. What inheritance? Kate's eyes were sad. Dad's life insurance. The policy you never knew about because Mom was waiting until you turned 30. Blake somehow found out and started asking questions. I drove to Mom's house feeling like I was heading toward an execution. The maple tree in the front yard looked bigger, older. Everything looked older. Mom answered the door with tears already forming. Her hair was grayer than I remembered, new lines around her mouth. We sat in the living room where I'd grown up, surrounded by photos documenting a life I'd walked away from. The air smelled like her perfume and the cinnamon candles she always burned. I told you men like him only take, she said softly, not angry, just infinitely sad. They find women with kind hearts and bleed them dry. You don't understand our relationship, I said, but the words felt hollow even to me. Mom pulled out her phone and showed me an email, Blake's name at the top, dated 8 months ago. Dear Mrs. Morrison, it began. I read the whole thing, my vision blurring. Blake had written her a long email asking about Dad's life insurance, about the house, about any inheritance I might receive. Casual and friendly, like he was planning our future together. He told me you cut me out of everything, I whispered. He said you told him I'd never get anything. Mom's face crumpled. I sent this directly to you the day I got it. You never responded. But Blake handled our email. He'd set up forwarding to help organize things better. I came back to Kate's apartment to find her on the phone, her voice sharp with anger I rarely heard from her. No, Blake, you don't get to demand anything. She paid for that furniture. Do you have receipts? Then show them to the court. She paced the living room, face red. I stood frozen in the doorway. The couch is hers. The coffee table is hers. The bedroom set is hers. You're a thief, Blake, a manipulative thief. Blake's voice came through the speaker, shouting obscenities loud enough for me to hear. Kate held the phone away from her ear, disgusted. If you contact her again, I'm calling the police. Stay away. She hung up and turned to find me standing there. Her expression immediately softened. He's been calling all afternoon, she said, demanding you return his furniture. Thank you, I managed, my voice breaking. Thank you for defending me. Kate hugged me tight. When she pulled back, her face was serious. There's something else you need to know about him. Kate opened her laptop and pulled up Blake's Instagram. I deleted all social media months ago when Blake said it was toxic. A blonde woman appeared in photo after photo, always close to Blake, too close to be casual friends. I scrolled, hands shaking. The photos went back 5 months. Blake at restaurants I'd never been to, coffee shops he'd never mentioned, hiking trails he said he was too busy for when I suggested going. Do you know her? Kate asked gently. I zoomed in on one photo and my stomach dropped. Vanessa. She worked at Henderson Marketing, where I used to work before Blake made me quit. Everything clicked into horrible focus. Blake had encouraged me to leave that job while secretly dating someone who still worked there. They'd probably laughed about how easily he controlled me. Kate clicked to Vanessa's profile. The most recent post was from yesterday, Blake and Vanessa at Romano's, the same restaurant that showed on my bank statement, posted 4 hours before Blake kicked me out. He'd used my money to take her on a date, then came home and destroyed my life. Something changed in me overnight. The crying stopped. The despair hardened into cold determination. I sat at Kate's kitchen table making lists. Plans, strategies, not revenge. That would be messy and emotional. This would be calculated and legal. Priority 1, income. I couldn't fight back without money. Priority 2, legal action. Blake had stolen from me and I had proof. Priority 3, myself. Becoming someone who would never be manipulated again. Kate found me surrounded by printed bank statements and receipts. You look different. I'm done being his victim. I picked up my phone and opened contacts, found a name I deleted and re-added 3 times. Marcus Wellington, my old boss at Henderson Marketing. I typed, Marcus, this is Maya. I know I left badly last year. Would you meet for coffee? I owe you an explanation. His response came in minutes. Tomorrow, 10 a.m., Corner Brew. Marcus looked the same, professional, kind, the wire-rimmed glasses I remembered. He stood when I approached, shaking my hand. Thank you for meeting me. I started, but he stopped me. Amanda told me some of what happened. You don't need to apologize, but I'd like to understand. So I told him everything, how Blake isolated me, how he drained my accounts, how he kicked me out with nothing. The humiliation poured out and Marcus listened without interrupting. When I finished, he was quiet for a long moment. The company's expanding our digital marketing division, he said finally. We need consultants who can start quickly. I'm offering you a 3-month contract, $32 per hour. If it works out, we'll discuss permanent placement. I calculated fast. 40 hours weekly for 3 months meant enough to rebuild my life. When can I start? Monday, 9 o'clock. For the first time in months, I felt like I could breathe. I threw myself into work like drowning person grabbing a lifeline. I arrived early, stayed late, relearned everything that had changed since I left. 2 weeks in, Marcus pulled me aside. Morrison Tech specifically requested you for their account. They remember your presentations. Morrison Tech was our biggest client. Being requested by name meant something. I was gathering files for the meeting when my phone buzzed. Blake's name on the screen. We need to talk. I screenshotted the message. My lawyer friend had said to document everything, then responded. About what? Us, can we meet? I stared at those words, anger rising hot in my chest. But I typed, tomorrow, 3 p.m. Central Cafe, public only. Blake arrived late, looking annoyed I'd chosen such a crowded place. He slid into the booth with a smile that used to make my heart race. Now it just made me sick. Thanks for meeting me, he said, like this was casual. I think we got off on the wrong foot with the breakup. I stayed silent, letting the awkwardness build. The truth is, we were both struggling financially, he continued, rewriting history smoothly. The relationship ran its course. These things happen, nobody's fault. Is that what you believe? He pulled out a folded document. I think we should handle this maturely. This just says the furniture was mutual investment and we both walk away clean. I read it carefully. The document claimed I'd gifted him everything I'd bought, the couch I'd saved for, the bedrooms that my grandmother helped me purchase. This says I gave you everything voluntarily. Well, you kind of did, Blake said, like I was being unreasonable. You moved in knowing how things worked. I folded the document and slid it back. No. I'm not signing lies. I stood up. We're done here. His charming mask slipped, showing the anger underneath, but I was already walking away. Patricia worked at a legal aid office, a friend of Kate's who specialized in financial disputes. Her office was small but professional. She reviewed my bank statements with practiced eyes. This is straightforward. You have documentation of unauthorized charges. We can file a small claims case for the withdrawals and demand return of your property. What are my chances? With this evidence, excellent. You have receipts for everything you bought, bank records showing he drained your account, text messages where he admits using your money. She looked up. You'll win. We spent an hour preparing documents. When I left, I felt powerful for the first time since Blake destroyed my life. The next morning, I visited my bank and froze the joint account. The banker processed it immediately, noting the suspicious transaction patterns. Within hours, my phone exploded with messages from Blake. 11 texts, each angrier than the last. What did you do? I can't access any money. This is illegal. You're going to regret this. I saved screenshots of everything and blocked his number. The silence felt like freedom. 3 days later, Kate called me at work. The bank tried to reach you. Someone attempted reopening the account. I called them immediately. Blake had gone to another branch, claiming I'd made a mistake with the freeze. He'd tried using his ID to restore access. We denied the request, the representative said firmly. Only the primary account holder, you can change the freeze order. Hope you're loving this story so far. Quick reminder to drop a comment telling us your city or country. If you haven't subscribed yet, now's the perfect time. Hit that like button if you're enjoying this, share it with someone special, and turn on notifications to stay updated with all our incredible stories. But his attempt proved something important. He knew exactly what he'd done wrong. This wasn't confusion. This was deliberate theft. Then Blake made his biggest mistake. Before I'd blocked him, he'd sent a text I'd saved. I used the account because you owe me for letting you move in. It's basically rent. I read it again, pulse racing. He just admitted in writing to taking my money as unauthorized payment. I forwarded it to Patricia immediately. She called within an hour, excitement clear in her voice. Maya, this changes everything. He just confessed to intentional theft. This isn't a misunderstanding. This is admission of a crime. What does that mean? It means when we file, his lawyer will see this message and know they can't win. Most cases like this settle quickly because defendants don't want to go to actual court. For the first time, I felt like I was winning. Filing the court paperwork felt surreal. The clerk reviewed my documentation, shaking her head. Girl, she said quietly, he's cooked. This evidence is airtight. The court scheduled a hearing 6 weeks out. Blake would be served papers at his workplace, a detail that gave me grim satisfaction. 2 days later, I got the notification. Papers served at 2:47 p.m. The process server attached a photo, Blake looking shocked and furious while coworkers watched. That evening, Kate forwarded me security footage from her building. Blake had shown up at 6:15 p.m., shouting my name in the parking lot. The video showed him packing frantically, pressing the buzzer repeatedly. Maya, come down and talk like an adult. Kate's voice through the speaker. Leave now or I'm calling the police. She's ruining my life over nothing. Blake's voice rose higher. We can fix this. Then he started crying, real tears, shoulders shaking. Please, I can't lose my job. I'll pay everything back. Just drop the case. Kate's response was ice. She owes you nothing. Leave before I call the police. Blake slammed his hand against the door before running to his car. Kate called the police anyway, filing a report for harassment. The hearing arrived faster than expected. I sat in the waiting area, hands clasped tight. Patricia sat beside me, calm and professional. Blake arrived late, looking disheveled. Wrinkled shirt, uncombed hair, clearly trying to appear sympathetic. The judge, a stern woman in her 60s, reviewed our files silently. "Mr. Blake Taylor," she began, "you're accused of unauthorized account use, theft, and harassment. Miss Maya Stevens has provided extensive documentation. Your response?" Blake stood, attempting his charming smile. "Your Honor, this is a misunderstanding between two people who lived together. We shared expenses like any couple." The judge's expression didn't change. "Did you, or did you not make charges Miss Stevens didn't authorize?" "We had a joint account. Everything was shared." "Actually," the judge said, reading the file, "Miss Stevens opened this account 3 years before meeting you. You were added 18 months ago at her discretion. That makes you an authorized user, not a joint owner." Blake's face paled. The judge continued methodically, her voice steady and professional as she read through each piece of evidence. Hotel charges where Blake had told me he was visiting family. Restaurant bills at places he claimed were too expensive when I suggested we go together. Cash withdrawals at odd hours. My grandmother's silver bracelet, the one she'd worn every day of her life, sold at a pawn shop for $85. Then came the furniture. The couch I'd saved 3 months to buy, working overtime at my old job. The bedroom set my grandmother had helped me purchase before she died, her last gift to me. The kitchen table where I'd imagined hosting dinner parties and making memories. All of it documented with receipts showing my name, my card, my money. "You sent this text message." The judge held up a printed copy, her reading glasses sliding down her nose slightly. Quote, "I used the account because you owe me for letting you move in." Blake's face flushed red. I was angry when I wrote that. People say things they don't mean." "This wasn't said in anger," the judge interrupted, her tone sharp. "According to the timestamp, this was sent 2 months before your breakup, in response to a reasonable question about unauthorized charges. It's a clear, written admission of intentional theft." I watched Blake's face cycle through emotions: anger, panic, desperation. For years, I'd read his expressions trying to gauge his mood, trying to avoid making him upset. Now I watched with detachment, like observing a stranger. The judge turned to the next piece of evidence. "Security footage shows you attempting to reopen the account after Miss Stevens properly froze it. You visited a different branch and told the banker she'd made a mistake. Is that true?" Blake's voice came out small, defeated. "I needed money for rent. My rent was due." "So you attempted to steal additional funds from her account to pay your personal bills?" The judge's tone was incredulous. "After you'd already drained her savings, after you'd kicked her out, you tried to take even more." Patricia leaned over and whispered in my ear, "He's destroying himself. Just watch." The judge announced her ruling 15 minutes later, her voice ringing clear through the courtroom. Blake was ordered to repay every unauthorized charge, a total of $4,270, plus court costs of $350, plus a fine of $500 for attempted account tampering and harassment. The furniture and personal items were to be returned within 7 days or replaced at current market value, documented with receipts. Blake's lawyer tried to argue for more time, but the judge cut him off. "Your client had no problem spending Miss Stevens' money quickly. He can repay it just as fast." Walking out of that courtroom, I felt 10 pounds lighter, like I'd been carrying Blake's weight on my shoulders and finally set it down. Walking out of the courthouse, I felt lighter. Patricia was grinning. "That was beautiful," she said. "I've never seen someone self-destruct so completely." 2 days later, Kate called with news. Amanda messaged me. Blake got suspended from work. His company had discovered the court ruling, public record, and launched an internal investigation. Blake had been claiming personal expenses as business costs, essentially stealing from his employer too. Within a week, he was fired. More importantly, Vanessa had broken up with him publicly. Someone forwarded me her post. Just learned my ex is a liar, a thief, and a manipulator. Should have listened to the warnings. At least she finally saw the truth. Work became my sanctuary. Marcus officially offered me a permanent position after my successful Morrison Tech presentation. $48,000 annually with benefits, more than I'd made before Blake ruined everything. I saved enough for a security deposit on a studio apartment. Small, third floor, nothing fancy, but mine, my name on the lease, my furniture, my rules. Kate helped me move in, bringing housewarming gifts. We ate pizza on my second-hand couch, laughing about nothing. "You look happy," Kate observed. "I am," I realized, "actually happy." My phone buzzed. Email from Blake. Long, rambling, incoherent. Half apology, half blame. He claimed he'd made mistakes, but that I'd driven him to it. I deleted it without responding. Blake deserved nothing from me anymore. 3 days later, a physical letter arrived. 6 pages of Blake's handwriting on expensive stationery. The letter rambled. He apologized, then blamed me, called himself a victim of my overreaction, insisted we'd both made mistakes. The final paragraph made me sick. "I know you'll realize eventually that we belong together. When you're ready to stop playing victim, I'll be waiting. I still love you." He genuinely believed he'd done nothing wrong. My phone rang, Patricia's name on screen. "Blake's lawyer wants a settlement meeting. Tomorrow." "Why?" "He doesn't want the full amount documented in public records. He's trying to minimize the paper trail." "Should I go?" Patricia paused. "I think you should hear what he has to say. You don't have to agree to anything, but it might give you closure." The settlement meeting was at Patricia's office. Blake arrived with a lawyer who looked uncomfortable with his client. Blake wouldn't look at me directly, eyes darting around nervously. His lawyer spoke first. "My client will repay the full court-ordered amount plus $500 for inconvenience. In exchange, he requests the case be sealed from public records." "Why?" Patricia asked. "Employment prospects. A public record makes it difficult to find work." Blake finally spoke, voice quiet and defeated. "I lost everything, Maya. My job, my apartment, my reputation. I'm living with my parents at 32. I just want a chance to start over." I studied his face. He looked genuinely broken, dark circles, weight loss, defeated posture. But I remembered how easily he'd manipulated me before. "You stole from me," I said steadily. "You used my money to date someone else. You threw me out with nothing." "I know," he whispered. "I'm sorry." Patricia pulled me into the hallway. "What do you want to do?" I thought carefully. Other women should know what he did. They should be able to search his name and find the truth. Patricia nodded approvingly. We returned to the conference room. I looked Blake directly in the eyes for what would be the final time. "I'll accept the settlement," I said slowly. "Full repayment plus 500, but the case stays public. Everything you did stays on record." Blake started protesting, but I held up my hand. "This isn't revenge, it's consequences. You made choices, stealing, lying, manipulating. Those choices have consequences." My voice grew stronger. "You want to start over. Start over as someone who takes responsibility instead of manipulating his way out." I stood, gathering my papers. "This is the last time you'll ever hear my voice. I'm not doing this for you. I'm doing this for every other woman you might try to hurt." Blake's face crumpled. His lawyer looked uncomfortable. "We'll have the check ready tomorrow," the lawyer said quietly, "along with delivery of all items." 2 weeks later, I sat in my apartment holding a glass of wine. The check had cleared. Every item returned. Blake had disappeared from my life completely. My phone sat silent on the coffee table. No demanding texts, no begging calls, no manipulative emails, just peace. The apartment was small but mine. The job was challenging but rewarding. The bank account was modest but growing steadily. Marcus had mentioned a promotion opportunity. Kate and I had coffee every Sunday. Mom and I were slowly rebuilding our relationship. A text arrived from Amanda. "Proud of you. You're an inspiration." I smiled, setting down my wine. For the first time in years, my reflection looked like someone I recognized. Someone strong, someone whole. I whispered to myself in the quiet apartment, I didn't just survive him, I outgrew him. A single tear rolled down my cheek, proud, relieved, hopeful. The journey from that parking lot with 8% battery and nowhere to go had been brutal. But I'd made it, not just to safety, but to a life I'd built with my own hands. Blake had tried to break me. Instead, he'd shown me exactly how strong I really was. I thought about the woman I used to be, the one who believed love meant sacrifice, who thought giving everything meant getting something back, who confused control with care. That woman was gone. In her place was someone who knew her worth, who understood that real love doesn't require you to disappear, who had learned the hardest way possible that sometimes the person you trust most is the one who will hurt you deepest. But I'd chosen myself, finally, completely, without reservation. And I would never stop choosing myself again. The city lights twinkled outside my window. My phone stayed silent. My heart felt light. I was free.